welcome to the Urban Doctor, your weekly show that discusses health issues. And we usually have our number that is going to be passing on your screens there. You can talk to us. Our WhatsApp number is 0755 755 Ask your question, and the doctor in the studio will be able to respond to those questions. We've had a series of a number of issues, and your messages, trust me, have been coming through and have been delivered to doctors. Where I cannot respond because I'm not a doctor to certain things, I give you the number or I ask the doctor to tell me, and that's in case the show is done and your message comes later. So I consult the doctor. When they tell me what to tell you, I will tell them if they need a phone number, and then they will authorize, so I can give you the number so you can see them. Today in the studio, we're going to talk about something very interesting that most times we actually overlook itself when it comes to issues of wellness. The understanding is different for me, and today probably by the time we leave this show, we shall have a different understanding of what wellness is. In the studio, I have Dr. Victoria Ndyanabangi. I hope I got the pronunciation right.
Yeah.
And she's going to be talking to us about wellness. How are you doing, doctor?
Fine, thank you. And I'm glad to be here, expounding on what people hear. People keep hearing people singing wellness, wellness, but they don't know what wellness is.
Every time I hear the word wellness, I'm hearing a voice of someone in whatever they are saying, telling me to go to the gym. That's what I've always understood by wellness. But since you're here, you can tell us, what is wellness? I mean, tell us what wellness is and what exactly constitutes someone being unwell.
Okay. So wellness is a multidimensional term that means that somebody holistically is making lifestyle choices and decisions to stay healthy.
Okay.
So it's not about just the gym, it's not about nutrition, which most people think that it's diet and exercise, but it involves aspects of mental health, that's emotional well-being. It involves issues of spiritual well-being. I know each one, irrespective of faith, has a superpower that they believe in, whether it's God, whether it's Allah, Buddha, but you have some spiritual connection. So spiritual well-being, it encompasses the physical, where we look at nutrition, we look at exercise, we look at sleep. People take sleep for granted. How are you sleeping? Do you sleep and actually soundly sleep, or you sleep and your brain continues working, so you wake up the next day and it's as if you didn't sleep? It encompasses all aspects, basically. So it is multidimensional. It's not just the physical, it's spiritual, emotional, socially also. Social capital is something that is so important. Sometimes we take it for granted, especially for the introverted who feel they need their space. But social capital is important because at some stage in your life, you will need them. So social well-being, keeping your connections, your relationships. Are you somebody who is in touch with people? You might have a job or an occupation where you deal with paper, but at some stage you have to interact with the people behind the paper. So that is what wellness is, being able to thrive, and it is proactive. You have to be intentional about it.
Sounds so broad, but it's so depending on where one is coming from.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you something that is very common in this generation. That's something that I never experienced in my childhood till today. And many people ask themselves the same question. Many times people fall sick, especially kids, and when we go to hospitals, the result we get is you have a bacterial infection. I am thinking the same way we have COVID and you're able to explain this COVID-19, this one came from South Africa, this is that, and same way you have Ebola and say this is Ebola, South Sudan and Congo. And what is this bacterial infection that is in this generation that we see?
Okay, so bacteria in layman's language, they're germs, let me say. It is a type of germs. We have different types of germs. So there is bacteria, there is viruses, there is what we call fungus. So there are different classifications of germs. So bacteria is a germ. And there are several types of bacteria. So when you go to the hospital and they tell you bacterial infection, it could be that you have a germ that is causing you to get a chest infection. That doesn't mean viruses don't. It's just that when we do certain assessments, we're able to tell, for instance, blood work, that, okay, this is likely to be bacteria, because we see certain cells that try to come in and destroy bacteria have increased in number. And then, so it's a germ. It could affect your chest, could affect your skin. So you could have a skin bacterial infection. You could have a skin chest infection. It could be in your urinary bladder. So we could say you have a urinary tract, bacterial urinary tract infection. It could be the eyes. So these germs can affect different sites. So depending on where they are, it is given a different term. But for the layman, when you go to the hospital, they'll simply tell you it is a bacterial infection.
So how do you explain a situation where, and I know we spoke this off air before, how do you explain a situation where a kid plays in soil now, and we end up in a situation where they go to the hospital for drips and a lot of treatment, and there's another kid right in the village playing in the same soil, probably eating worse things that you cannot imagine, and they never have, actually I've never had bacterial infections in the village. I only hear them here in town. How do you explain that?
So it is about the level of immunity attained, and also simple things we take for granted. Look at the diet of somebody who is in the village. Everything is fresh from the garden, unprocessed, and this is what they are feeding on a daily basis. Where you are saying increase your vegetable and fruits, for them they have all the time. Climb the mango tree, pick your mango. Climb the avocado tree, pick your avocado. Walk there, pick your dodo, carrot, tomato, what have you. So this is what they are eating on a daily basis. And so, yes, they do get exposed, and a few bouts at the start will actually make them sick. But once they recover, they have a level of immunity, antibodies that can fight off infection, but also their body develops memory to fight these infections. Coupled with the diet, then inevitably there is space in the village. Children walk, they run, they walk to school, they ride bicycles, so they are exercising. They are doing these little things that we are saying. They sleep early. There is either no television, or generally they sleep early in the village, if you've noticed. So they get quality, yes, so they get quality sleep. The simple things we take for granted. They are not on gadgets like we are on a daily basis. So their brains actually get to rest. So there is so much that they do in the village that we don't do in town. In town, we eat a lot of processed foods. Then we use medications unnecessarily. So even what we call normal flora or normal germs that we are supposed to have in certain acceptable levels, we clear them because we are taking antibiotics when we don't need to. And those are some of the challenges. We think the processed foods that we eat in the restaurant are the best. Yes, they taste well, but we also know that healthy meals can be prepared and actually taste well. You just have to learn how and be ready to invest, because in town, vegetables are expensive, fruits are relatively expensive to get the right quantities that you need. But your health is your wealth, so invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, then whom are you working for? What is this money for?
You know, you've talked of food, and there's this new ways of, or maybe a new lifestyle. We call it detoxicating, and then dieting, and then this eating, and to a point that when they see you increasing in weight by 2 kilograms, 3 kilograms, you're unwell, you're unhealthy. So I don't know if you can explain to us this, a lifestyle. What would be a good lifestyle, an ideal lifestyle in terms of eating?
Okay, an ideal lifestyle, what we recommend, especially us, the wellness advocates, we encourage that you eat as much fruit and vegetable, because we know most of our vitamins are in the fruits and vegetables. So if you have a regular plate, half your plate should be vegetables.
Really?
Yes. Your body only needs a certain amount of calories to run you through the day. So if you eat excess calories, your body still will not utilize them. Either it will convert them into things like fat, or they will be lost because it can only use so much. However, for the fruits and vegetables, we need those vitamins and antioxidants that we get from them to be able to run our immune system. So fruits and vegetables, if you have a plate, half your plate should be vegetables, then the other half you divide into 2/4, that is your protein and carbohydrate. Your carbohydrate is the food, the matoke, the rice if you have, but for us we encourage brown rice. It is
brown
your
rice,
sweet.
the one you cook and turns brown. Or there's
It
another
is
different
brown rice. There's a different rice called brown rice.
Really?
Not as tasty as the white rice, but it is there.
Okay.
Things like sweet potatoes, like Irish, that is carbohydrate. We generally want people to reduce white carbohydrates because they are the ones that have what we call a high glycemic index. They have quick conversion into glucose and high amounts of glucose. So those ones you eat in small quantities, but you can even do without them. And then protein, you need your protein. Protein are all the sources, your beans, your peas, your nuts, your fish, your chicken, your meat.
Yeah, I was worried about the last one.
And for fruits and vegetables, there is no limit. Actually, the recommendation is that you should have 3 to 5 servings a day. That means you can have them in the morning, at break, at lunch, in the afternoon, in the evening, and it is perfect. And then drinking your water. Water is very key. Our body is actually about 70% liquid water. So you need it. So for ladies, we recommend about 2 liters of water per day. For men, about 3 liters of water per day.
Why? How do you explain the science?
It is about, it is from a public health point that they have estimated an adult man average weight is about so many kilos, an average woman average weight is about that. So it's about, they do a census and they see, okay, the average weight, because usually actually it's about 25 mils per kilo, 25 or 35 mils per kilo. So you can calculate based on your weight. But to avoid that going back to calculate and what have you, we just say, okay, the range usually is between this and this. For the population, that's what we've seen. For men, the range is between this and this. So let them recommend 3 liters. For women, 2 liters.
Still talking about the eating and basically meals and nutrition. Many people are doing this fasting thing.
Fasting and juicing.
Does it work?
Everything in moderation works. How does the juicing help? Juicing allows your body to do what we call detoxification. Detoxification is basically getting rid of unwanted substances in your system. Picture this. Since you were born, you have been actually eating.
True.
You have been eating, and most times we actually overfeed rather than underfeed. Your body never gets a chance to completely clear out the breakdown components of what you have eaten. And especially for things like meat that take more than a day to digest, to break down. So imagine you're eating meat every day. So yesterday's meat is not yet completely out of the system. You add more meat, then the next day you add more meat, because it is tough to digest. So it takes a while for the body to actually completely break it down and get it out of the system. So detoxification periodically through things like juicing is safe, but only for a period, to allow your body to basically, you're getting nutrients, you're getting your glucose, your antioxidants, your natural sugars to keep your body running through the juices, which are usually from fruit and vegetable, while you allow your body, and they also have fiber in them, while you allow your body to get rid of all these things. But you cannot juice for life. You do it for a period, then you go back to healthy eating. So it is recommended, but for a duration.
When you talk about juices, I am confused.
There are juices, there are teas.
So when you say, okay, like say juices, what juice?
Yeah.
Is it something that I can make on my own?
Yes.
Or you're talking about juice of passion fruits that I can just keep squeezing? Is there a difference?
They are fruit juices, and then there are juices that they mix with vegetables, things like spinach, things like kale. There's a vegetable called kale, things like celery, which have fiber, things like carrots. So you need the fiber, you need also those added nutrients from the vegetables, and then you need the fruit juices. But it's not that you necessarily have to take only the juices. You can say, I am not a juice person, or I won't have the time to make the juices. Then have your fruits, dice them, and eat them whole. Or have your vegetables, make a salad and have that, and then hydrate. So you can either make the juices, it's a quick way of getting everything in that you want, but you can also have them through salads and as fruit that has been diced and chopped, and you'll still have the same effect.
Let me give you a scenario of a proper day, maybe in meals. Okay, not proper, because you know the one which is proper, but I'm giving you the traditional ways of how we eat. Breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, evening tea, and dinner or supper. Is that a healthy way of eating in a day? And if not, which one would be ideal?
So it depends on what you eat. You asked earlier about fasting. Fasting is good if you are, it's a lifestyle option that you can take on. Some bodies can take it, some can't. For instance, you can do a 12 to 6 hours, meaning that you eat within a window of 6 hours. The rest of the 12 hours, you're only hydrating. That's when you take your water, that's when you take your juices, but you're not eating solid food. So let me say you can say I'll eat only between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. That means that you'll have your lunch and maybe your early dinner, and then maybe you can have a snack in between. Personally, it has worked for me. I practice what they call intermittent fasting, and it's one of the things that has helped me to stay healthy and keep my weight in check, because I used to be quite obese and overweight, and I lost weight over a space of about 4 years, from 120 kilos to about 75 kilos. So over time, I have discovered what works for my body type, and it's not that one size fits all. So what you were asking about, it is recommended that you eat, but the question is, what are you eating? So for instance, you can say my breakfast, I'll have a cup of maybe green tea and some fruit. That's okay. Then at break time, you can say I will have some nuts and maybe a cup of tea, or I will have juice and some snacks. Then lunch, I will have a healthy meal with the other proportions that we mentioned, and not large quantities. You know, there are people who binge eat, they pick the biggest plate.
4 potatoes.
Yes. The body doesn't need all that. It needs only a certain amount to actually keep it running. So have your lunch, but have your plenty of vegetable, have your small carbohydrate, have your small protein. Then you can still have a snack in the evening, but be particular what kind of snacks you have. Nuts are very good as snacks. There are all types of nuts out there, things like sim, things like plantain. Those are things that you can snack on. We have things like amaranth that's on the market. We have healthy flours from things like sweet potatoes that have been used to bake healthy snacks. So if your intention, or you actually want to lose out, these things are actually there. It's about knowing what is there and what do I need. So the meals are okay. The question is, what are you eating? But also discovering what works best.
So would you say that if I ate meat as lunch, it's advisable I shouldn't eat it in the evening?
Yes, please.
It's not this meat, we're going to eat lunch on it and then have supper on it, and then as you go on. And okay, so how something to do with food and sleep now, because you talked about also enough sleep and things like that.
Yes.
What is the correlation between food and sleep? Is it that if I eat little, should there first of all be how much I can eat before I sleep? Or what time should I sleep after eating? How do those work?
Very interesting question. The eating may affect your sleep in two ways. If you go to sleep immediately after eating, let me say 30 minutes to an hour after eating, you've gone to bed on a full stomach. So one, digestion will be slow because when you sleep, all your systems sort of slow down, they shut down. So digestion is slow, you're going to get bloated, wake up in the middle of the night because of the discomfort. Then you'll get what we call reflux because the food hasn't been digested and churned out of your stomach. It comes back upwards into your throat, so you have heartburn. So it's not that it stops your sleep, but it affects you in terms of getting quality sleep because you don't get comfortable while you sleep. So we recommend that you have early, especially for dinner, have early dinner between 7, latest 8, because averagely the normal person goes to bed at about 10 o'clock. So that should allow you enough time for your body to work on your food and push most of it out of your stomach so that you can sleep well, sleep comfortably. But also during that time, you've been up and about doing this and that and that and what have you. So you've utilized some of the calories from that food so that you don't put on excess calories. Because when you sleep, somehow digestion is slow, also your body is absorbing nutrients and what have you, because everything is static. So you also end up with these excess calories that the body is not utilizing, so it has to find where to put them.
Okay, doctor, I've also heard when it comes to sleep, I don't know how true this is because I've not tried these things out. Every time we lose sleep, or personally I lack sleep, or some other people there, when I wake up and go online, I find people online, everyone is complaining about sleep. But then there are suggested remedies or you could take a cup of milk before sleep, you can eat this before sleep, you can, so it all looks like there's a meal that, or some food or some remedies that people can consume before sleep to help them go through the 8-hour sleep. Is that true?
There are a few things that have been tested. Documentation hasn't been so much about looking into, is it true that there's an association? But there are certain teas, for instance, chamomile tea, that has been known to enhance the mood for sleep. But there are also things that you can practice, like sleep hygiene, things people take for granted. When you go to bed, actually switch off the lights, don't leave lights on, let the environment be quiet, turn off your gadgets, or if they are on, dim the light, put it in vibration. Like people worry, if I get an emergency call and my phone is off, so put it in vibration, dim the light, put it away from you, so that, because if it vibrates, you will hear it, you will hear the phone. Exercise is key, by the way. If you have a good exercise routine, you will sleep well, actually. Then taking coffee. I was doing a talk recently and someone was saying, oh, but I don't sleep. And he hadn't mentioned actually that he takes a lot of coffee. So while we were talking, another person says, but he actually takes a lot of coffee, caffeine. Wow. So the caffeine in coffee is also keeping him awake, but he doesn't realize it's one of the factors. Then also practicing habits of work-life balance, that when I go home, I will shut down all gadgets and leave work at work. And when I am at home, I am actually now shutting down. The challenge is many of us, including myself sometimes, but I have tried to contain it and it's work in progress, that I do not carry work at home, because you get home and your brain you actually didn't stop. Even while you were driving home, you were thinking about whatever you're going to work on. So you'd rather be an early riser, let me say get up at 4, 5, but have slept enough, about 6 to 8 hours of quality sleep. You're more productive and do that work in the morning than try to work way into the night and sleep late, because our body has a pattern of hormones it produces for sleep. So we produce what we call cortisol in different levels. So at night you're expected to sleep, then you don't sleep, then you want to sleep during the day. Somehow you cause confusion to the body. So things like chamomile tea, practicing sleep hygiene, ensuring that you work in appropriate hours and sleep in appropriate hours, get your exercise in, because exercise produces certain hormones also, causes us to produce certain hormones in our bodies. And it has been studied that when you have a good exercise routine, you actually tend to sleep well.
What constitutes a good exercise routine? How much exercise is enough?
Yes.
What is the bare minimum? And how many calories do you think one should be at least burning in a day?
We want to go to calories, but because different, like I said, there's no one size fits all. But we recommend that you have at least 30 minutes exercise 5 days a week. So that would mean about 150 minutes in a week. And just enough to get your heart racing. That's what we normally say. So it could be walking, it could be swimming, it could be dancing, it could be skipping rope, it could be cycling. There are so many things that you can actually do. These days with technology, we have YouTube. You can actually, in the space of your house, turn on a YouTube video. There's an instructor there, do a routine. So the sky is the limit with exercise. There is no limitation. It's just about figuring out what do I enjoy. But I also encourage people to diversify, because if you're doing the same thing, it might get boring. So on this wellness journey, being that it's going to be a lifestyle, try and make it as fun as possible.
Okay.
Yes.
That could involve even walking.
Yes. If you love nature, for me, it's what I do most of the time, walking, because I love nature. You get to see lots of other things out there.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Victoria. We've come to an end of our show. We hope that you will find some time during the Christmas season and pass by again, so we can have another episode on wellness. Thank you so much, viewers. Your messages have definitely been received, and the doctor will receive them, and she'll give us feedback, and we'll bring back those answers. Thank you so much for watching The Urban Doctor. We'll see you next week.
Okay.